get started
building a personal brand business is all.
Okay, let's start with people raving about how can I do more of that?
Our culture, this instant gratification.
I'm going to do this. It's attached to a meeting, so we remember who agreed what.
3 of this framework is to create raving fans.
Get asked, am I Hawaiian? Because
Hey there, Shakers, and welcome back to another episode of Worth Your Salt, the podcast that's here to supercharge your marketing in the health and wellness space. I'm Jennifer Orechwa, author of Get Found, Get Booked, and over the past 2 decades, my team and I have tested, iterated, and figured out what it takes to market and grow so you don't have to. Now I'm here to help you apply the marketing systems that truly work. At Salt Marketing, we're all about helping wellness practitioners like you build trust, authority, and a nonstop flow of clients. So if you're ready to take your practice to the next level, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Today's conversation is one I think every med spa owner, injector, aesthetician, wellness entrepreneur needs to hear, because we're talking about what happens when beauty is not just about the result, but about the responsibility behind the result. In aesthetics, trust is everything. Clients are coming to you with their faces, their insecurities, their hopes, their questions, and sometimes a lot of confusion from what they've seen online. And so that means that the best providers aren't just selling treatments. They're educating, guiding, protecting, and empowering their clients. My guest today is Raquel Merlini, RN and founder of Our Skin Aesthetics in Birmingham, Michigan. Raquel has spent years in aesthetic medicine with deep expertise in injectables, lasers, skincare, and wellness. She's also a former IBB pro bodybuilder, triathlete, and certified personal trainer. So she brings this really interesting full body perspective to confidence, beauty, health, and self-worth. But what I love most about Raquel's story is that her work goes beyond treatments. She mentors others who are entering the field, teaches introductory Botox courses, created a pay-it-forward scholarship to support women, especially single mothers and women overcoming personal challenges as they build brighter futures. So today we're talking about ethics, education, giving back, natural results, red flags, and what it really means to build an aesthetics practice with purpose. Raquel, welcome to Worth Your Salt.
Wow, thank you so much, Jennifer. That was a great introduction. I don't know if I can live up to the expectation.
No, I'm fascinated by your story. And I do want to start with your story because there are so many layers to it. Aesthetics, fitness, empowerment, education. You've had such a wide-ranging path, from the plastics industry to aesthetics, bodybuilding, and now owning Our Skin. So what pulled you into this world in the beginning?
Oh, goodness. What pulled me into this world in the beginning would be I've always kind of been enamored with the beauty industry. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, who really influenced me in my younger years, was a hairdresser. So I spent a lot of times just running around the hair salon, playing in the makeup and having her do my hair also. So really just started to drive that passion at a young age. I remember being on the playground and putting girls through like workouts, or we would spend the night and do oatmeal face masks and, all of that. So just very, very passionate. And then as I've grown and developed, it's more, I've found, empowering women, right? Because if we look good, we feel good. If we feel good, we look even better. So I'm passionate about the industry. I hope I never lose that passion. And it's a great, great industry for me to be in.
Yeah, and a lot of people think of aesthetics as beauty, but your work goes much deeper than that. So how do you personally define sort of the purpose of aesthetic medicine?
I feel like it's gotten a little out of control in some realms. I believe that aesthetics, especially the industry when I got involved, was just to enhance, maybe even do a little correction. I've had patients who have even come in with Bell's palsy, and they've got asymmetry, and I've been able to correct that symmetry issue through neurotoxin and then possibly filler down the line. So there's so many benefits. And then I also feel, though, that it is playing a lot on people's vulnerability and insecurities. When you turn on TikTok and, you think everybody's got glass skin. So, which is not reality either. So I believe that if you do aesthetics with integrity and looking at it from an ethical standpoint, that's really where I try to drive the foundation of what I'm trying to create. Not transactional, but I'm sure we'll get to that. But I do feel that it has progressed into, I'm hoping the pendulum's going to start swinging back. Let me put it to you that way.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about education and helping patients really understand their options. So why do you think that education is such an important part of ethical aesthetics?
Well, I think, the whole basis with medicine is supposed to be educating that patient, right? If you teach them why smoking isn't good for them, or you teach them why that fatty food isn't healthy for you, it's all based upon education. And I think when my patients come into my treatment room and I'm laying out a plan, first of all, I want to know what it is that bothers them. What is their goal? Is it a realistic goal? First of all, and foremost, and then also, um, how am I going to be able to meet their needs? And in order to do that, I think I have to explain the reality of a product that I'm choosing, the why I want to put together a specific plan for that patient. And then you're building that relationship in creating that educational teaching moment. And I think that when people are better informed, there's confidence that's built there between myself and the patient, as well as, okay, this makes sense. And we don't have to always do, I'm more um, about doing that marathon as opposed to sprint with my patients. Like, let's take our time. Let's do one thing, see how that is, and then you come back, and then we go through, maybe the next stage of correction or enhancement. So explaining to the patient why they're getting the treatment that they're getting, as well as what that product is, because I have patients come in and they're like, oh, I don't know, I went somewhere and I don't know what they used. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't know what they used? Like, how does that even make sense? And then, especially in the world where there's a lot of fraudulent products, there's a lot of fraudulent and charlatan injectors out there selling snake oil. I see in our area a lot of silicone. So you've got, I think, again, if you just sit down and educate the patient, it's all about teaching them, explaining, and then building that relationship.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about that word ethics. I want to go a little deeper because we talk at Salt Marketing a lot about ethical marketing, and I think that in the marketing world, we suffer sort of the same, like challenges that you do in the aesthetics world. So in your world, what does ethical aesthetics look like? What does that look like in the treatment room?
Well, again, if you're educating patients rather than selling them, true ethical aesthetics is going to start with information, then consents, and empowerment, not pressuring them, not, hyping something up. Another thing I really believe in is under promising and over delivering. You know, I think it's essential that patients do understand that why I'm making the recommendations, as well as when you're speaking about ethics, it shouldn't be transactional. I think a lot of people want to get into the industry because they think that it's lucrative. It might possibly be glamorous. Can you make more in an hour in an aesthetics treatment room than maybe at the hospital? Doing a little bit, different type of medicine. So um, I think that there's a different appeal. I feel like, I get a lot of resumes from nurses who are like, oh, I'm graduating nursing school and I want to go straight into aesthetics. And I encourage them, I think you need to be in the hospital for a year or so that, one, you get that good foundation, because this again is still medicine. I have to go through a good faith exam. I've got to go through a health history. I had a patient who, she was complaining the other day, she didn't want to, every time you come, you fill out a new consent, a new health history, because I don't know what's happened to you in the last 3 months. Did you have a medication change? Did you have a health issue? Were you on an antibiotic? Did you get a vaccine? Because if you got a vaccine, your body's already in a cytokine storm. I don't want to inject you until we're about 6 weeks past that vaccine. So again, I think with ethics, people need to treat this as it is medicine, and you need to put the patient's safety first, their health first, and make sure that you're understanding what's going on with them extrinsically as well as intrinsically. So, I do see a lot of, unfortunately, lack of ethics in the industry.
Yeah. So you alluded to this a minute ago, like people on TikTok, like they're seeing things that are really not necessarily achievable. So where do you think the aesthetics industry sometimes gets this wrong, especially when it comes to these trends, social media, pressure to look a certain way? Where do we get it wrong?
I think the industry often plays on people's insecurities, and they're pushing a very narrow filter beauty standard through the social media. I think it's creating pressure, especially I'm seeing it on young people, even more so. I used to work in plastics, and you get a 23-year-old who's coming in and wanting a brow lift. I don't know if that's necessary at that age. I'm like, this is the best you're ever gonna be. Enjoy today.
Yep.
So I think they're chasing one ideal look instead of celebrating the natural individuality. I think in the 90s, yes, we have progressed a lot, but I think in the 90s you saw a Naomi Campbell, you saw a Cindy Crawford, you saw a Kate Moss. You would see a blonde hair, blue eyed model. You'd see a darker model. I feel like now everybody wanted to be, and I don't want to just throw out the name, but they want to be a Kim Kardashian or, something along those trends. And you're losing a lot of the individuality. Like, why does everybody have to have Groucho Marx eyebrows? These are my eyebrows. I've had them from day one. People can look at my high school pictures. I have Brooke Shields eyebrows. But why does everybody have to have these big, thick, hairy eyebrows? That doesn't mean that that's attractive for your face. Or lips that are walking into the room and entering before you're even physically through the door. So, I think unfortunately, that exaggerated style has been dominant, and it's not always suitable for the individual themselves. So I would like to see less of a cookie cutter approach, less over treatment, also in unnatural results, because I feel like people come in and they regret, like, I wish I wouldn't have started so young, or I wish that I wouldn't have done so much. And not enjoying the unique features. Like, I still love a gap between the teeth. When people come in, I'm thinking about getting veneers. I'm like, oh God, don't you? I love the gap between your teeth. But it could also be too that I'm in my 50s now. I'm really enjoying, the little creases that we've earned. That gives me a little more wisdom than I had in my 20s. So I think social media definitely is a factor. It has its pluses and minuses. I mean, the patients do come in a little more educated, but then they're also TikTok docs, right? Well, I saw this. Well, was that person educated? They're also, what's their age? 20, you better not have a line on your face, and you're selling a cream.
For sure. Yeah. And I think our 50s give us some perspective on all of this. So, all right. I love where this conversation is going. You're really reframing aesthetics from how do we sell more treatments to how do we make people help them make more confident, informed decisions. I mean, really, that shift is what matters so much for anyone who's trying to build a trusted wellness brand, not to mention being intentional about their own personal brand. But right now we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to get into the client side of this, how people can spot high quality work, what red flags to watch for, and how providers can lead with integrity in a very trend-driven industry. Back in a moment.
If you're investing in marketing but still losing leads because no one responds after hours, here's something worth checking out. Podium's AI patient coordinator, Avery, is like hiring a 24/7 employee for your med spa. Avery can instantly respond to new leads, answer questions, schedule appointments, send reminders, follow up with patients, request reviews, and keep conversations moving, even while your team is busy with the patients already in your practice. The best part? Your staff gets to spend less time buried in administrative tasks and more time building the personal relationships your patients expect. If you want to learn how med spas are using AI to increase conversions and stop losing revenue, listen to the Worth Your Salt podcast, episode 88, with special guest Shannon Blake from Podium. You'll find it wherever you get your podcasts or at saltmarketing.co/worthyoursalt. That's saltmarketing.co/worthyoursalt.
All right, we're back with Raquel Merlini, founder of Our Skin Aesthetics. And before the break, we were talking about ethics education and why aesthetics should be about empowering people, not pressuring them. So I want to get more practical. Whether someone listening is a provider or practice owner, or even someone who gets aesthetic treatments themselves, there's so much confusion out there about what good work actually looks like. So As a clinic owner, how do you build the kind of patient experience that immediately signals you're in good hands, like from the consultation to the follow-up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe that it starts the moment the patient walks either into our practice or they book a consultation. So from the moment that they call, we try to create a very calm, professional environment. We want the patient to feel heard. There's no rush, no sales pitch. Uh, when we're interviewing them on the phone, we want to make sure that we're matching the provider with what it is that their needs could possibly be. Then after they schedule their appointment, they'll get a booking link, reminder, also all of their forms and consents prior to their visit. Not everybody fills it out. I wish you would if you're listening. That would be very helpful and give me more time to spend with you on your treatment. But and then once they walk in, my front desk girl, I actually shouldn't even diminish her enough as a front desk. She's my patient coordinator and
They're so important.
manager.
They're so important, right?
So important. And, she greets them, and then I have a medical assistant that whisks them into the room. And then that's when I'm able to sit down and truly understand their full story, meaning their goals, their life experiences, their insecurities, what natural means to them. And then during that consultation and treatment plan, again, to circle back to education is so important. Transparency, like I'm not a magician. I can't erase 50 years of wrinkles if you've never come into the treatment room and you got a wedding in 6 weeks and I'm going, oh my God, well, like, where have you been? Explaining that why behind every recommendation, showing realistic options also, so again, that my patient has a realistic concept of what we're going to do going forward. And I'm also very, very honest about what would be appropriate for them. Again, someone who comes in without lips at all, you're not going to walk out with Angelina Jolie lips. It's just not possible, and that's when with my ethics, I'll refer you. So, I've got a handful of plastic surgeons in the area that I trust and I have relationships with, and I will send them, that way if I don't think that I'm able to treat them in my aesthetics room. And then also saying no, if they don't have a realistic expectation, or I also don't think that they have the mindset. A lot of this oftentimes can be emotional decisions. Maybe they're going through a divorce or a breakup, or, after COVID, I saw a lot of job loss. They had to get back into the job market. So, I've got to sit and really think, why is it that you're doing this? And if you've just suffered some trauma, I don't want to take advantage. Could I sell you probably $10,000 of injectables? Absolutely. But let's first start slow, maybe do a little sprinkle of some Botox, or I might even give you to my esthetician, just have a nice relaxing, facial so that your skin glows, because you take off all that makeup and you'd really be surprised at how much younger you look. So, building that in the treatment room, and then not just in the treatment room, but when you leave, you're just as important to me as when you leave. So if I might have a challenging case, or it's even a new patient and we did filler on them, I might have my medical assistant call a day or two later, just as a follow-up. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, you got a bruise? Well, we have a laser. Come on in. I'm going to complimentary give you a laser to reduce that bruise time. Also just want to see how you're doing. So, that follow-up really is where that trust solidifies. I feel like a lot of people take the money, you're out the door, it's happened to me, and then they forget about you. And I think we want to stay connected. We want to make sure that you understood your aftercare instructions. Also, any concerns, we're able to address them promptly. And then I think, it just gives that confidence and that feeling of being taken care of, and that it is a relationship.
Yeah, I love that. And there are so many clinics that don't follow through in that way. So that's really remarkable. On the flip side, so that's those are the signals that they're in a good place. On the flip side, what are some red flags that clinic owners should be looking for inside their own practice? Like what can we be looking for in terms of habits, messaging, shortcuts, even culture issues that can quietly erode that trust before they realize it? Have you had experience with that?
Yes. So it's very interesting because I came from a culture like that previously. And I look back and people are like, oh my goodness, how did you do that for 13 years? And I said, what was great was I learned everything not to do, right? And how to ruin a company within is the culture. So here at Our Skin, I really try to encourage growth. I pay attention. If someone's quiet quitting and has a lack of engagement, which unfortunately I did just experience, and that team member stops going the extra mile and they're not showing up with the enthusiasm. I've told all of my girls, this is Disneyland. This is Disney World. I had a patient one time who told me she worked at Disney, and on their very first onboarding day, Disney sat them down and said, listen, if you're not in a good mood or you can't check your emotions at the door, don't come in, because this is a place that people are paying to come to. It's Never Land, happy, people are paying for that experience. So, and that's what I've told my girls. If you're not in a good mood, don't come in, because not only is it going to affect your teammates, but the patients are going to feel that also.
Yes.
They can become disengaged. So, and then that's when you've got to have the conversation. And if they're not teachable, and they're not willing to pivot, I think adaptability is very important. Being able to take that constructive criticism and having that hard conversation. And if the person can't, this is something that I've really been working on, is if after you do all of that reach out, at the end of the day, you're not doing anyone a favor by keeping them on, right? Because you're actually stagnating their growth, and it's just not a match. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or I'm a bad person, or we're just not aligning where we want to go. And I think that that's time. I have a guilty thing that I tend to be loyal to a fault. So now that I'm in a business owner role, that's been a little bit of a learning experience for me, Jennifer. But I do think that all of that can affect your growth, the company's growth, and the culture, as well as just being resistant to growth. Can be, mean girl. We're women. You're beautiful. There's that mean girl competitive behavior. I don't tolerate it. I was a competitive bodybuilder, and I'm going to tell you, I've had less drama being in a bikini and heels on a stage than I have in the aesthetics. And that's not even underneath my roof. That's just, I watch this stuff on social media and people are so critical. And I'm just thinking, why are you being so critical? So I think that can be erode the authentic patient first culture that I'm trying to create here at Our Skin.
Yeah, you need to say that one louder for the people in the back. Like we all need to be building each other up in this industry.
Yes.
There's so much criticism online. It's crazy. And when we talk about ethics and we talk about marketing, that's one of the main points that I see a lot of is the idea that, we instead of breaking each other down and looking for holes, we need to be helping each other, educating each other. So shifting gears a little bit, we hear the phrase natural looking results all the time. So from your perspective, what does that actually mean? What does it require from a provider?
Yes. Well, to me, the best compliment is when someone said, I went home and my husband didn't even notice. And I'm like, yes, that's great. I mean, natural looking is that patient doesn't look like they've had anything done. They simply just look their best, refreshed. They took a vacation. They got a new hairstyle. Their skin's glowing. Did you get a little bit of vitamin D outside? It should be subtle enhancement that, again, is respecting their unique facial anatomy. Someone comes in, they've got an ethnicity of Italian, or we have a large Chaldean population here. They might have a little bit of a stronger Roman nose. It's beautiful. Why do you want to alter it so much? So just looking at, maybe we can do a little bit of facial balancing. So what I think is important from a provider's standpoint, though, in achieving is that natural look is it requires you to have deep expertise as an injector, meaning you have to, again, understand the rheology of the product, how different products, biostimulators and neuromodulators are going to behave in that tissue, right? And then every treatment should be precise, artistic. You should know anatomy. You need to know what plane that you are in, because that's going to make a big difference. Whether it might look great in the first week, but then how is that product going to wear if it was not injected in that right plane long term. So I do think that natural looking it should just be individualized, and you want to look refreshed.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to ask you this next question because I'm curious, but you're going to feel like you're in a job interview. So how do you handle it when a client comes in asking for something that you don't think is right for them? How do you handle that?
Okay, well, I know that's so hard. If they come in and they want something that I just don't think is realistic, we're gonna go back to the first part of this discussion, is that education, right? I need to really listen carefully to what their goal is and then explain in an honest and kind way what that specific request might not be the best for that person's anatomy, as well as what the long-term effects might be, and safety too. So, I've had patients come in and they're like, okay, I want 2 syringes in my lips, one in the upper, one in the lower. I saw it on Instagram. This is the way I want. And I personally, I won't do that. I just think 2 syringes in a sitting, and someone else might be listening to me and roll their eyes and say, oh, she's conservative. But, you've got 2 arteries, your superior and your inferior. And if you're putting too much product in a short period of time, if you don't cause a vascular occlusion, you could even cause a compromise. It's like a hose. So, then you're pinching off that vessel and it's not able to perfuse, and you're going to end up with a problem. So, you've got to, again, educate and explain why it is without also frightening the patient. And then offer possibly an alternative, that might align with a more natural look, and explaining without pressure, again, why that we're going to do that specific treatment. And then if it's just not appropriate and it's not something that I'm comfortable with from a safety standpoint, I will refer them to another provider who may be willing to do that, or I'll decline altogether. Typically, once I really do sit down and explain why, and I say, listen, you can come back in 2 or 3 weeks, we can put more in. But what are we in a hurry for? Let's just slow down, pump the brakes, and put together a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So for practice owners who are listening, how can they market results and services in a way that's compelling without becoming fear-based or misleading or overly trend-driven? It's so easy to see what's happening in the marketplace and try and follow those trends. How do you make sure that you're ethically communicating your results and how things actually work?
Empowering the patients by showing authentic, stories. I'm finding the trend is not just before and afters, like this is how they looked before and this is how they looked after. A lot of our followers are enjoying like the patient's story. They came in, they've lost 30 pounds on a GLP-1, and they're starting to feel like good and healthy. Then you're using those stories to empower. I think that that's a more authentic version for marketing. I don't think that you're necessarily then. I have a big issue with selling. I don't like to sell anything. It doesn't make me feel comfortable. I feel like then I'm not being my authentic, true self, and the patient can see through that. So that's why I think it's really important to show stories, journeys, not just before and afters, as well as I'm trying to do a lot more education on my Instagram, demonstrating the techniques that I'm doing. Then also, again, prioritizing education over selling, hands down. When you're educating, that's going to come across in your marketing. Staying transparent and patient centered. Again, I think that people want to make it about themselves, and what they're trying to get across, where the patient is the one who is the most important, right? And that's why I think with your marketing, if you're showing patient-centered results, which again just goes back to explaining and why you're doing what you're doing, and keeping your message. So huge for marketing is making sure that your message is aligning with your values, right? With that integrity. Mine's a little bit more of a holistic confidence. I don't want you to look overdone. I just want you to feel that when you look in the mirror, you're like, oh my goodness, I really feel powerful. I feel strong. And again, long term. So a lot of my patients have been with me for 13 to 15 years. So going back to that marketing is those stories, of what we just did. Kathy's stories. Kathy's like, Raquel, I come in, I've gone through the loss of fiance, that was an immediate death that was unexpected. I've lost weight. I've changed careers 4 or 5 times. So when you're marketing, you're not trying to chase trends. You're trying to keep that patient-centered approach.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction, because great marketing really should attract the right people, but it also should set the right expectations, like build trust before somebody even walks through your door.
Right, because
So,
they're interviewing us. It's a very different market now with social media. They'll come in and they'll say, oh, I didn't know you had a motorcycle, or, oh, you've got an English bulldog. They know more about my life than even what I do sometimes. So,
yep.
Again, there's a presence there. And I think that you need to stay within that integrity for sure of what your value is and what you're trying to relay.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Raquel, it's time for another quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Salt Marketing's Worth Your Salt podcast, where we help wellness entrepreneurs attract, connect with, and nurture their ideal audience so they can grow with confidence. I'm your host, Jennifer Orechwa, and my guest today is Raquel Merlini, RN, BSN, founder of Our Skin Aesthetics in Birmingham, Michigan. Raquel helps clients achieve natural-looking aesthetic results through education, expert care, and personalized treatment plans. And she's also passionate about mentoring women and creating more opportunity in the aesthetics field. So if something you hear today sparks an idea, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and let us know what resonated. We're back with Raquel Merlini, and before the break, we were talking about what ethical aesthetics looks like in the treatment room, from saying no when needed to educating patients, helping people avoid those red flags. So now I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about purpose, because one of the things that really stood out to me about you is your commitment to mentorship and giving back. So tell me a little bit about your Pay It Forward scholarship. What inspired you to create it? Who's it designed to help?
My Pay It Forward scholarship was inspired by my own journey. I think that education is freeing. I think it gives you opportunity. So I created that Pay It Forward scholarship, especially for women who are rebuilding after difficult chapters, whether it's divorce or unplanned becoming a parent. And there wasn't a plan for that. So it's designed to support single and divorced moms or women who need access to education or professional training to gain that independence and better provide for their person as well as the future of their children. And so I want to be able to help out by giving confidence and opportunity. Just as I had to fight for my own path, I didn't go to nursing school until I was 38 years old after my divorce, and I rebuilt from nothing. My kids were in high school and they were complaining that they're like, Mom, I don't know how I'm going to make this grade. And I'm like, listen, I can't deal with it. I'm working full time. I'm training full time as a bodybuilder, and I'm going to school full time. You need to figure it out. So a little tough love there, but definitely I had to fight for my own path, and I want to give the opportunity to somebody else and let them know that it is achievable no matter what age you are, no matter what background you come from. You just got to dig deep and put your mind to it.
No doubt that your kiddos are stronger for that too. So there's nothing wrong with that. And you mentioned this earlier, but you also mentor medical assistants who want to become nurses and help people. You want to help people enter aesthetics with integrity. So what do you wish more new providers understood before they get into this field?
Well, again, this is medicine. I think that people don't take it as serious as what it is. I mean, we're using a syringe, we're using a needle. if you don't understand anatomy, there are a lot of risks. So I think that that's a really big safety knowledge. Complication management, I don't think that there's a lot discussed. It's becoming more to the forefront, but I know when I was first educated, I would take trainings. The reps would come in and they'd give you a training and then not tell you, like, okay, if something goes wrong, what do you do? So, if you don't understand how to take care of a immediate problem, you can't just even send them to the ER, because the ER isn't going to understand what necrotic tissue is coming from a vascular occlusion because you just got injected, right? They might do a round of antibiotics, but there's Hylenex. There's other things that you can do. So I think that people should be a little bit more mindful of the career choice, that it looks glamorous on camera, but if you see me by the end of the day, I got sweat beads trickling down, my hair sticking up. I've got 3 pairs of glasses, always asking the girls, where's my glasses? And I've got them. They're like, okay, Raquel, they're all over. You've got 5 of them on you. But so I think if you're looking for the glamour or the dollars, it's a wrong mindset. This field really does require genuine care for patients, because there's a lot more mental going on than just this, and it's a commitment to lifelong learning. I remember being in nursing school. I just did my bachelor's last year, and it was a reminder again that we should be lifelong learners. This is always constantly evolving. It's not quick wins or status to be the best injector. I see these girls who have been injecting for 3 years and now all of a sudden they're a master injector. I would never call myself a master injector, and I've been injecting for 13 to 15 years. So it's always evolving. Products are always changing. So I think if you are looking to get into the aesthetics field, you need to graduate. You should have some hospital experience underneath your belt so that you also understand how to deal in emergent situations. And then key is approach it with integrity, know when to say no, and prioritize the wellness of your patients over what beauty trends are. And I think that people should be a little bit more rooted in that, not just wanting to be a nurse injector.
Yeah, outstanding. So going back to the idea of giving back, for med spa or wellness practice owners who are listening, how can they incorporate giving back in a way that feels really authentic and sustainable? Like it's not performative.
Yes. So for us, we are involved with several charities besides my Pay It Forward. I'm really big with um, wounded warriors and soldiers. So we try to participate in something with them once a year and support them, as well as abused women and children. And so I really try to give back in the community. I also like to align myself with female business owners, in whether it's my girls are all doing Pilates, so we've got several different Pilates studios, and we'll collaborate with them, just bring more awareness. Maybe we'll go out, we'll do B12 shots and vitamin C and D shots, and just speak just about all over health and wellness, because I do think that the aesthetics industry is going more towards longevity as opposed to just looking aesthetically good. I think what people are realizing is, oh goodness, I actually do have to take care of, my gut health so that my skin looks better. So community wise, if we'll donate a lot, schools will call us, we try to participate in the fundraisers. That is very important to me. But my female business owners and abused women and children, as well as soldiers, are the way we
Yeah.
give back.
Yeah, and I saw on your Instagram, you guys were recently did a fundraiser for CASA, so I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're basically the ways that you give back are very much aligned with your values. I think that that's a key component there, especially when you're talking about something that you're passionate about. So, what do you think the future of aesthetics looks like if more providers do this, lead with education, ethics, and empowerment?
Gosh, I think it could be really super powerful. I think that support from one another as a community, um, it- encouraging people to say no more often so that we can kind of get to a realistic, natural look. just unity in the community, choosing that over competition, I think would really change the aesthetics industry. And then, I'm hoping that the influencing with social media will kind of tame down. I think they've taken filters off of some of the social media. So, everybody was filtering and having this glass fake skin and all of that. So, I'm hoping that also will help us in the aesthetics industry.
Yeah, I love that. All right. I know everyone listening is wondering how they can get in touch, where they can find you or follow you. Where can we learn more about you and about Our Skin Aesthetics?
Yes. So both Instagram, my personal one is Our Skin Admission, and our business one is Our Skin Aesthetics. Then our website is ourskin.net. And that would be the best way. And then if you're ever in Michigan, come on into Birmingham and visit us.
I love that. And of course, if you want to learn more about Raquel and Our Skin Aesthetics, we'll link everything up in the show notes at saltmarketing.co. Right now, Raquel, it is time for our lightning round questions. These are a few quick questions that I ask of every guest. Are you ready?
Okay. All right. Yes.
All right.
Ready, Jennifer.
First question is, what's something about you that often surprises people? And you can't say motorcycle or what did you say? French bulldogs?
I think that people would be surprised that I was in a junior military. I was a Civil Air Force cadet, and I actually forgot about that. My dad passed away, and I saw the photos, and I said, "Oh my God, I forgot I was in the Civil Air Patrol."
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. My daughter did that as well. She flew a plane at 12. It was very cool.
Awesome.
Interesting. All right, next question is, what's your favorite thing about the work that you do?
It would have to be the relationships with the patients, just hearing their stories. When they're grateful and they see an improvement, coming in and hugging me and saying how telling me how I changed their life. So for me, it's just the relationship.
Love that. So good. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Not to take anything personally, and to remember, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Very nice. All right. Last question. Who's inspiring you right now? What podcast you're listening to, or maybe what's the best book that you've read recently?
Two of them, actually. Unreasonable Hospitality. It's more about the restaurant world, but it ties into everything that we do. And then David Goggins. He just came out with another book. It's called Never Finished. But if you can read his Can't Hurt Me, it is amazing.
I definitely will look at that one. Yeah, Unreasonable Hospitality. We have a whole episode on that. I love that. I don't know if you've watched The Bear, but that's all based on Unreasonable Hospitality as well. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. All right, Raquel, thank you so much for joining me today on Worth Your Salt.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I also want to thank you, Salt Nation. If today's conversation has you thinking, I'm ready to take my marketing to the next level, that's exactly what we're here for at Salt Marketing. Our Salted Edge system is designed to help wellness practitioners like you attract new clients, convert them into loyal fans, and finally get marketing that works without the guesswork. If you have a great success story, I'd love to talk with you on Worth Your Salt. Tell us about why you're worth your salt by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. And of course, be sure to subscribe to Worth Your Salt so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up.
I love that name, Worth Your Salt.